So here were the limitations. One is they had to use Rudolph, obviously. Okay. They also had to use their creative discipline. So whatever it is that they do as a creative person, we contacted them and said, hey, can you do that thing for us? And most of them said yes. Some said no. We'll get them next year. The other limitations are they had their presentation is divided into 2 parts. The first 10 slides is the story. So this whole thing is not the Rudolph story, it's just the first 10 slides. The second 10 slides are their process. So they're going to tell you how they solved this problem, which is the part that I was most excited about, because as a teacher I really like seeing students work through a problem, and I think as creative people you are going to learn quite a bit from seeing how these people solved this problem. It also gave them only half of the time to make something, so they were more likely to say yes. So the Rudolph story is 3.5 minutes, and then the whole thing is 6 minutes and 40 seconds. The last limitations are, they had 4 slides that they had to cover. The first one is a title slide. The 4th slide had to have Santa on it. The 7th slide had to have all the other reindeer, and the 10th slide has to have Rudolph and his nose shining. So that's what we told them. All 10 of these presentations came together sort of on their own, and they're all brilliant. I'm just really excited about what's about to happen. So, did I cover everything, Jake? Bingo. Yeah, Jake says bingo. Okay. Her sense of design and her quick intuition brought her to 2nd place in the Command X competition. But what she loves the most, not the job, not the win, is her husband named Jake and a young son who's named Finn. Cate White.
Hi. So I'm retelling Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it's not so much a drastic retelling as just a re-examination of the same things that we learned the first time we saw it as a kid, but probably forgot about those lessons that kind of drift away and you don't really go back and ever think about them over again. So Rudolph and the other reindeer were all separated by one little thing, and that was their nose. So I decided to represent the reindeers just by this one silly little difference, their nose. Rudolph was very obsessed with the other noses. He thought they were sleeker, better, just everything that he wanted to be. And these other reindeer just kind of exercised him from the group. He was totally different. And he didn't embrace all that. And he was alone. He was an outsider. Everywhere he went, everyone knew where he was. But the person that was looking for him knew where to find him. And they were looking for the things that mattered to them, so they found Rudolph, the one that could lead their sleigh and really change the way that they did things. Rudolph didn't know that someone was looking for him and seeing the good in what he could do, and instead he tried to hide who he was, and he dulled his shine, he tried to paint his nose, tried to blend in with the crowd, not embracing his talent and viewed it instead as a flaw. But that person that was looking for him still remembered his good qualities, and no matter what, was able to find him through it. And he wasn't able to blend in because that wasn't who he was. He was always going to stand out, he was always going to shine, he was going to be Rudolph. And the thing that's great about it is that you always know who Rudolph is. Everyone else in the reindeer lineup is interchangeable. They're all the same. They could be Vixen or Prancer or Harry. It doesn't really matter. They all are kind of the same. Except for Rudolph. You always know who Rudolph is, which is really pretty awesome. And so, like most things that happen in design, one thing that's successful gets replicated. So, the next Christmas, all the other reindeer got some work done, and they all decided to make their noses red to try and match Rudolph, but they didn't really understand what the good quality of what Rudolph was doing was. Rudolph had to learn the hard way that just because everyone else was doing the same thing, it was actually limiting his own potential of his own greatness and his own capabilities, just trying to blend in. And so Rudolph learned to love and accept and really use his big, shiny, honking red nose to his advantage. And that's why there's songs about him, and that's why we're doing this whole thing about Rudolph, not about the other random reindeer that, all look the same, all did the same thing. So the way I got here was I was doing a lot of thinking about it and how those lessons of Rudolph really reflect a lot of what we do today if you step back. And I started to wonder, it was really a matter of perspective. Was Rudolph really an outsider, or was he just an innovator? And the big thing that I had was trying to come up with what was the difference between all of these other reindeer and Rudolph, and how to best describe and illustrate their differences. And it just came down to this one silly thing, this nose that totally ruined Rudolph's life in his eyes, but actually was this great blessing. All the other reindeer kind of had the same thing, and it's really it's a little disheartening to think that everyone is the same level, same talent, aiming for the same thing and not really wanting something more, or being afraid to stand out. And I thought it was funny that none of the other reindeer really have any shout-outs except for Prancer. I found had a movie in 1989 about a Christmas ornament that fell and came to life, but I think that was kind of just just tried. So one thing I kind of took away was that you can assume that everyone is as talented as you, but that you're also just as talented as everyone else. And you have to keep pushing yourself to get to that next level of away from the crowd, even if it's scary, getting your own ideas out there. And I really love this quote from Todd Henry about not being afraid to go out and do these things, like stand out from the crowd. It's really scary to try and do something that's really great or different, but and so how do you apply these things to your own life, and how are you the Santa Claus? You're always going through things and picking, and I would just encourage people to start looking for the things that are interesting to them, because you're pulling things that are different and draw your attention, and how to include or how to take those principles that you learned from the Rudolph story and use them in your own life. Are you being different, and is it something that's making a value or a change in your world? Is it something that you're proud of and excited to do? And if you're not, you should probably readdress what you're doing and think about it again. The other thing I thought was that reindeer are kind of jerks. That they didn't really love and appreciate and accept Rudolph for who he was until he was able to do this one thing. But I just have to admire the Rudolphs out there that still pursue what they do. And that's about it. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas.
Who have not thought about it at that level would understand, and then visualize that in a way that's so simple that they can't think about anything else. And I think that Cate is a really talented designer because she did just that for you tonight.